Patrice Lumumba, a hero who dreamed of a free Congo. Imagine being born in one of the richest countries on earth, yet growing up surrounded by poverty. Imagine seeing your land filled with gold, diamonds, copper, and countless natural resources, but watching those riches benefit people thousands of miles away while your own people struggle to survive. Now imagine deciding that enough is enough. Imagine standing up against one of the most powerful colonial systems in the world and demanding freedom, and then imagining paying for the courage with your life. This is the story of Patrice Lumumba, one of Africa's most influential independence leaders, a man whose dream was to build a free and united Congo, whose tragic death would turn him into a symbol of resistance across the world. To understand Patrice Lumumba, we must first understand the world into which he was born. Patrice Lumumba was born on July 2nd, 1925 in the Belgian Congo, a vast territory in Central Africa that is today known as the DRC Congo. At the time, Congo was under Belgian colonial rule. Although the country was blessed with enormous natural wealth, most Congolese people had little control over their own lives. For decades, colonial authorities and foreign companies extracted resources from the land while millions of Congolese lived in difficult conditions. The history of colonial Congo was marked by exploitation, forced labor, discrimination, and violence. Many Congolese were denied basic rights and opportunities were available to Europeans living in the colony. Young Patrice Lumumba grew up witnessing these realities. Unlike many children of his generation, he had access to some education. He was intelligent, curious, and eager to learn. He developed a passion for reading and spent countless hours studying history, politics, and other current affairs. Books opened his eyes to a wider world. As he learned about the struggles of people in the other countries, he began asking questions about the situation in his own homeland. Why should Congo be controlled by a foreign power? Why were Congolese people treated as second-class citizens in their own country? Why were the riches of Congo benefiting others while its people remained poor? These questions stayed with him as he grew older. As a young man, Lumumba worked in various jobs, including a postdoc lab, a position that allowed him to interact with people from different backgrounds and gave him a better understanding of how colonial society functioned. But he was not satisfied with simply earning a living. He wanted change. He wanted change, justice, and most importantly, he wanted freedom for his people. During the 1940s and 1950s, a powerful wave of change was sweeping across Africa. Across the continent, many people were beginning to challenge the colonial rule systems all over. Nationalist movements were emerging in country after country. Africans were demanding independence and self-government. The old colonial systems that had dominated Africa for generations was beginning to crack. Lumumba watched these developments closely. The more he learned, the more convinced he would become that people of Congo deserved the right to govern themselves. He began participating in political discussions and community activities. Soon, he emerged as a gifted speaker. People were drawn to his confidence, intelligence, and ability to communicate complex ideas in a simple and powerful way. Unlike some leaders who focused only on local and tribal interests, Lumumba spoke about national unity. He believed that the future of Congo depended on bringing all Congo people together, regardless of their ethnic or regional differences. This vision made him stand out. As his popularity grew, so did his influence. In 1958, he helped Congo to establish the Congolese National Movement, political party that dedicated itself on achieving independence and national unity for Congo. The movement quickly gained support. Many Congolese saw Lumumba as a leader who genuinely cared about the future of the country. At the political rallies, large crowds gathered to hear him speak. His speeches inspired the hope. He spoke about dignity. He spoke about equality. He spoke about the future in which Congo people would finally control their own destiny. As nationalist sentiments grew stronger, colonial authorities became increasingly concerned. The demand for independence could no longer be ignored. By the late 1950s, tensions were rising across the Congo. Protests, demonstrations became more frequent. The colonial administration realized that the change was coming. Eventually, Belgium agreed to negotiate the country's transition to independence. For millions of Congolese, it was a moment they had long dreamed about. On June 30th, 1960, the Belgian Congo officially became an independent nation. The atmosphere was electric. People celebrated in towns and villages across the country. For the first time, Congo would govern itself. Patrice Lumumba became the country's first prime minister. Joseph Kasavubu became the president. The independence ceremony attracted international attention. World leaders watched as a new African nation was born. During the event, King Baudouin of Belgium delivered a speech praising Belgium's role in the Congo, saying there was civilization. His speech portrayed colonial rule as a positive force that had benefited the country. Many people expected Lumumba to remain silent. Instead, he delivered a speech that would become one of the most famous speeches in African history. Lumumba spoke openly about the suffering experienced by Congolese people under colonial. He talked about humiliation, discrimination, forced labor, and injustice. He reminded the world that the independence had not been a gift. It had been won through struggle and sacrifice. His words resonated deeply with many Africans. For supporters of independence movements across the continent, Lumumba became a symbol of courage and honesty. But not everyone welcomed his speech. Some foreign officials viewed it as a confrontation. Others saw it as an evidence that Lumumba would not be easy to influence or control. The speech elevated his reputation among supporters while increasing concern among his opponents. Unfortunately, independence did not immediately bring stability. Almost as soon as the celebrations ended, the new nation faced serious challenges. The army mutinied, violence broke out in several regions. European settlers began leaving the country. Then, an average greater crisis emerged. The mineral-rich province of Katanga declared itself independence from Congo. Katanga was one of the wealthiest regions in the country. Its mines produced enormous quantities of valuable resources. Losing Katanga would be a devastating blow to the new nation. Lumumba refused to accept the secession. He believed that Congo must remain united. The crisis quickly escalated. The young government struggled to maintain control. Political tensions intensified, and foreign governments became increasingly involved in the Congolese affairs. At the same time, the world was in the middle of the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union were competing for influence around the globe. Every political conflict seemed connected to this larger struggle. When Lumumba thought international assistance to help preserve the unity of Congo, some Western governments became suspicious. They feared that the Congo might move closer to the Soviet Union. This concern increased pressure on Lumumba. Within the countries, political divisions deepened. Power struggles emerged between various leaders. The government became increasingly unstable. In September 1960, President Joseph Kasavubu announced that Lumumba had been dismissed as a prime minister. Lumumba rejected the decision and argued that it was unconstitutional. The result was a political crisis. Competing leaders claimed authority. The country became increasingly divided. Amidst that chaos, a military officer named Joseph Mobutu Sese Seko stepped forward. Mobutu seized power and effectively neutralized both political camps. Lumumba was placed under house arrest. The man who had led Congo into independence was now a prisoner in his own country. For Lumumba, the situation was becoming desperate. He knew that remaining under house arrest would mean the end of his political career and perhaps even his life. Determined to continue the struggle, he decided to escape. His goal was to reach supporters in another part of the country where he hoped to reorganize and continue his political activities. The journey was extremely dangerous. Roads were monitored, military forces were searching for him everywhere. A brief period, it seemed possible that he might succeed, but fate had only other plans. Lumumba was captured by forces loyal to the new authorities. The images of his arrest shocked many people. Photographers showed him in captivity surrounded by soldiers. Supporters around the world feared for his safety. Those fears would soon prove justified. After his capture, Lumumba was subjected to harsh treatment. He was beaten and humiliated. Political enemies sought not only to defeat him but also to destroy his reputation. Despite everything he endured, he reportedly remained defiant. He continued to believe in the ideals for which he had fought. On January 17, 1961, Lumumba was transferred to Katanga. The decision would seal his fate. Katanga was controlled by leaders who viewed him as a dangerous enemy. Upon arrival, he and two of his close associates, Maurice Mpolo and Joseph Okito, were handed over to the hostile authorities. That evening, the three were taken to a remote location. There, they were executed by firing squad. Patrice Lumumba was only 35 years old. The man who had become the face of Congolese independence was dead. Yet, even after his execution, the story did not end. Those responsible feared that his grave might become a symbol of resistance. As a result, efforts were made to conceal the crime and eliminate evidence. For years, details surrounding his death remained hidden. Rumors circulated. Questions remained unanswered. The full truth emerged only gradually over the following decades. News of Lumumba's death spread throughout Africa and beyond. The reaction was immediate and emotional. Many people were outraged. Protests erupted in several countries. Students marched in streets. Political leaders condemned the killing. For many Africans, Lumumba became more than a politician. He became a martyr. He became a symbol of the sacrifice made in the struggle against colonialism and foreign domination. His death transformed him into a legend.